Yup, so it certainly has been a long time since I've been back here on this channel, guys, and I do apologize for that. Let's just say that August was a bit exciting for myself and my personal life, so had a bunch of things going on, but I have been keeping my eyes on the VR industry at large, and I have some thoughts on kind of just what seems to be just a different type of feel to VR as a whole here in 2025, and I just kind of wanted to touch on that as well as kind of give you guys a bit of a channel update here. So kicking back off with this video, I will be back at you guys with regularly scheduled uploads. We're going to pump those out 2 to 3 times a week like I initially intended to get going last month, but we're going to start pushing that this month for you guys. So I'm going to be doing a lot more interesting things. I got a couple new video essays coming at you guys, obviously some reviews, some countdowns, some VR news, so a bunch of cool stuff. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please consider doing so. It really does help us out, and I have some great new things coming at you guys. If you guys like shorts, not the biggest fan of them, but hey, people seem to like them, so I do have a few shorts in the pipeline for you guys. So now that we got that out of the way, let's get down to the crux to what today's issue is and topic of today's video is, and that is VR has a innovation problem, right? As 2025, despite, the successes of 2024, we had huge releases, of course, Metro Awakening, Batman Arkham Shadow, Alien Rogue Incursion, and Skydance's Behemoth, to name a few to close out the year. Coming off of that and then coming into this year and the 2025 with a game like Arcane Age dropping, we've had a slew of, nice, polished, big budget feeling titles enter the VR sphere in the last year or so, right? Last 9 months, 12 months, however length of time it's been. But still, 2025, as I stated before, just feels different, right? And that is, in my opinion, due to a lack of innovation, right? VR certainly has an innovation problem. Even when you compare it to its earlier iteration, right? You compare it to the Rift 1 days, the original Rift days, 2017, 2016, through about 2019, that era there, where you got games like Robo Recall, you got games like Arizona Sunshine, you got a title like Lone Echo, and then of course its sequel Lone Echo 2, and things of that nature. You got Stormland, you got Wilson's Heart, and it just felt like every single game that was coming out was being crafted with love, and trying to really push the boundaries of what VR can do. And almost a decade on from that point, some of the highest rated games and a lot of the games that people tell everybody are amongst the cream of the crop certainly skew towards that earlier era. Even if you look at something like Half-Life Alyx, right? That is another title that's been out for a while, another title that has been, in the VR ecosystem for, 5 years now, 6 years now, and still, when you look at the top and the cream of the crop of games, it's amongst the top, if not the #1 game on most people's list. And that speaks, of course, to the quality and the polish of that particular title, but more importantly, it speaks to the lack of innovation in things to really continue to move this space forward, in my personal opinion, right? And this, of course, is brought on by a few different reasons, right? Firstly, of course, with the pandemic back in 2020, we had the big boom, right? We had a large number of tech companies absolutely bloat their internal rosters and their workforce to try to accommodate what they felt like was going to be a more online-based system. And this, of course, included, Meta, right? Meta, who is the #1 driver of VR, whether we like it or not. And I definitely have some thoughts on that we'll touch on here in just a second. But the Meta, Amazon, Google, all these companies brought about a large number of workers, and as things balanced out post-pandemic, of course, a lot of layoffs have occurred, right? This has led to studio closures, this has led to mass layoffs, and it's just been an all-around bad situation in that regard for a lot of VR studios, as of course VR is a more niche, much more smaller player base than traditional flat gaming. We understand this, right? But we can't all put it there, right? A lot of it has to do with the fact that when new players are introduced to VR, there's a lot of shovelware bullshit being pushed out there. Let's just be completely honest, right? For every Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners that we got some sloppy, poorly put together zombie game that when people jumped into VR, especially on the Meta storefront, which is notoriously clunky and difficult to navigate, especially if you don't know what you're looking for, you're getting thrown all these, hacky Meta Horizon Worlds games that just quite frankly aren't good, right? So you're not getting to see the titles that may actually hook a player into the medium and encourage somebody to spend that little bit of money to go get that next title. People aren't seeing the Into the Radiuses. People aren't seeing, these type of titles front and center on the storefronts like they should. Even on Steam, it's a little to navigate, in terms of what they actually push forward on the storefront. If I see War Thunder or, One More Time or no, what else is always up on there for me? Recently I have been seeing the new F1 game, so I'll give them credit for that. But I'm seeing the same 2 to 3 games every single time, and there's new titles coming out, right? But this has to start with Meta. They have to stop promoting this shovelware bullshit and actually let developers that have spent time, effort, resources, and real money putting together good games. They have to promote the good games. People shouldn't have to go through a variety of different menus to actually see the games that are worth the damn, a little bit of their time, right? They shouldn't have to do these things. But unfortunately, with Meta being the #1 driver of VR, they have their own vision for it. This seems to be their vision. I personally don't know why. I know why. They're trying to build their metaverse, save their money there. I personally think they need to cut their losses, let it develop more naturally and organically, and just promote good games, put the money into good games, right? And that's not to say that we don't have some good titles coming out. We have the new Thief game coming out, right? And of course, Deadpool touching down later this year. There's a few other titles, of course, of note that we could definitely talk about, but VR has good games. It just does a piss poor job of marketing, which has always been my biggest gripe about the VR industry at large, is that it is not properly marketed. And that again is a lot of it has to do with maybe people don't know how to promote the space because it is a different type of medium. It's not just as simple as, hey, here's a game, go play it, because you do have to account for things like motion sickness and things of that nature. But the marketing for VR has always been piss poor to me, and I think that we just quite simply put need to do a better job. So I don't know exactly what the solution is. It's not my job, but just making an observation there. And this trickles down even to the content creator space right here on YouTube, where we're seeing a lot of the same type of videos, right? We're seeing people and creators put out videos that they may have put out 6 months ago and doing a touch-up edition of it. Or we're seeing people who may have just seemingly lost that drive to actually continue in the VR space simply because it feels stale, right? And I understand it, right? I definitely understand it. For me personally, I just kind of look at it as I got to attack this thing from a different angle, right? Because I want to get you guys great VR content out there that's going to get more people hooked into the medium. So that's why I'm leaning more on the video essays and just a few other interesting ideas that I feel like I have for the channel. But I definitely understand the feeling of apathy that a lot of the VR content creation space may be feeling right now. But I hope that everyone can at least just kind of stick through it and ride it out, because I think that this holiday season, Q4 of this year, is going to be an absolutely huge indicator on where VR is going in the short to long midterm future. Eventually we'll get there, but we'll see whether or not we see the amount of investment from some of these companies that we have. We'll see if Valve finally is going to enter the fray again. Obviously, people have been waiting on that for years, but this has the potential to be a definitely industry-defining year for VR. And me personally, I'm pretty excited about that. And I want to do my part to highlight the highs and to point out the things and games that players should be staying away from, because I don't want people to waste their money on low quality titles, which is one thing that we have the opportunity here. Is we're not as big as traditional gaming. We have the opportunity to push out these slop fest games. We can get these games out, low ratings, don't support, talk about it, get them out of here, and really make this a space that only promotes the highest of high quality, so we can get titles that are worth our time, effort, and money. But I kind of just wanted to touch up on that, guys. VR is definitely lacking that touch of innovation. We got to get back to not just making the same games over and over again. No more zombie games, no more open world survival games, no more rail shooters. Let's get some innovation and think of interesting ways to use VR in a non-traditional sense. Demio, triangle strategy, take from these ideas, let's expound upon them. But anyways, I'm back, you guys. I appreciate you guys taking a look at your guide to Down Golden. And as always, thank you for watching.